President Trump is expected to announce further details about his so-called Gaza Board of Peace at Davos. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to join despite facing an international criminal arrest warrant for war crimes on the Gaza Strip. In a social media post, his office said he has accepted the invitation of US President Donald Trump. The board is one of several entities involved in the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire. Netanyahu had earlier been critical of Washington's makeup of another of those entities. Well, let's have a look at who else makes up this Board of Peace. It's going to be chaired by, of course, US President Donald Trump himself. The US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, will handle the diplomatic engagement, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will oversee governance coordination. Tony Blair, the former UK Prime Minister, serves as an advisory for the peace process. And Jared Kushner, US Envoy, is to focus on reconstruction and international planning. Business figures, including World Bank Group President Ajay Banga, joined to guide funding and economic planning, and several heads of state have been invited to participate. And of course, one of those, and the most latest one, is the Israeli Prime Minister. Marwan Bishara is Al Jazeera's senior political analyst. Somebody said that this must be a joke.
Well, you know, there are some good jokes and some bad jokes. I think I'll leave it to you to decide, or rather to our viewers. But look, I mean, on the face of it, people would probably argue that, peace and negotiations and so on are made between enemies. And who's to judge which enemy is the criminal and which is not? That's on the face of it. But in real terms, when you look at the board, since it was, in fact, approved by the United Nations Security Council, and if you remember at that time, I voiced alarm at how could the world community approve a board that it knows nothing, zero, zilch, nothing about. Well, they did that simply to stop the killing, to stop the bloodshed. President Trump took advantage of it, and now he's building his own Board of Peace, inviting his own, family members, friends, billionaire friends, and of course, the likes of Benjamin Netanyahu, who is an indicted war criminal, and he is the mastermind of the genocide in Gaza. So again, you would say, well, he is needed. But the Board of Peace, in the charter that I've read, that was published by an Israeli paper, does not mention Gaza at all. There is no mention of Gaza in the charter of the Board of Peace draft that was published by the Israeli paper. So Netanyahu, the war criminal indicted by the International Criminal Court, shows up in this board, right, as a respected member, among others, with, of course, the support of Trump. So bad joke, good joke, remains to be seen.
Well, Marwan, where do we go from here? That's the question. I mean, we've got the second phase of the ceasefire, which is constantly being breached in the first place.
But you see, this is the thing, right? I mean, now with the process about rebuilding Gaza, rebuilding any such, conflict or war zone, is going to be dependent on the United States and its friends. Now, those with, dignity and self-respect and issues with the Trump administration, of course, refused. Like, Macron, for example, the French president said, look, we can't join. We are disputing the whole question of the United States wanting to invade Greenland. And before asking Netanyahu to join, of course, Trump asked, guess who? Putin to join. So while Putin is in the midst of bombing Ukraine, while Netanyahu is in the midst of bombing Lebanon, Gaza, incursion into Syria, and so on and so forth, he's inviting to a board of peace. So we clearly are living today, in an Orwellian world where, slavery is freedom, war is peace, hunger is construction, and so on and so forth. It is bizarre, to say the least, but it is the dominant force. It's the dominant force in Davos, as we just heard earlier. There are only few voices like Carney that you just voiced earlier, the Canadian Prime Minister or the French President, who are speaking out. But I think among the 60-plus members who were invited, including, the El Salvador president, who's been helping Netanyahu incarcerate people, immigrants, and so on, or the Argentinian president, and so on and so forth, I think a lot of countries are going to join. And just one last thing, I need you to understand, I need our viewers around to understand why this is a very special kind of board. It's actually a very Trump board because he gets to choose who joins. He gets to choose the executive board. He gets to veto all kinds of decisions that are taken by the board. He gets to choose the agenda. He even has the exclusive right to choose the seal of the board. He gets to choose who stays and who goes on the board. So this is not exactly, the board of peace for Gaza. This is a Trump board that's going to be, giving him more of, the kind of ego trip that he needs. And it has absolutely nothing to do with, the reconstruction of Gaza, for the time being anyway, right? Or for establishing peace between Palestinians and Israelis, because guess what? The Palestinians are not a state, and hence they are not exactly, as far as I know, invited to join the board of peace.
Which he said the other day wasn't his first inclination anymore after he blamed the Norwegian government erroneously for not awarding him the Peace Prize.
The way he insists, this is not for me to say, but clearly a good number of editorials in the United States have accused him of pettiness, right? The constant, insistence on getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and the fact that he continues to speak of it, and then he lashes out and says, you know what, you don't want to give me the Peace Prize, then I'm just going to do war or something like of that nature, right? I'm paraphrasing, of course, that now he's not going to do peace since he's not getting a Peace Prize. So he was actually doing peace, whatever that means, for the sake of the Peace Prize. He was actually doing a crusade in the media, a media blitz of some sort, newspeak again in the Orwellian world, in order to get a prize, because what? Obama got a prize, so he should get one too. Yes, sometimes it does sound laughable, but it's very serious. And it is, as I said, the predominant, the dominant force in the Middle East today, in Israel-Palestine today. And it's the one that's going to be giving the okay or not the okay to reconstruct Gaza, or to, get the Israelis out of there, the occupying power, or, hold back Netanyahu from more bombings and so on and so forth. Will they do that? Just judging from the names and judging from the charter and judging from the mechanism of the board and its mission, well, I'm worried.
Marwan, thank you, as ever. Marwan Bishara, the Al Jazeera's senior political analyst.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.